The title of this book is The Fear of Death. Isaac G. Lee presents. We have encountered predicaments and faced numerous worries throughout our entire lives. Worry creeps in and whispers to us that we must do something to avoid death, and this concern gives birth to other worries. Life becomes a series of worries. But where does worry first arise? What triggers the awakening of this colossal entity? I have a friend who runs a business. He had amassed a significant amount of money that could sustain his life even without actively working. However, he lost a substantial portion of his earnings through involvement in some risky ventures. For a while, he struggled to sleep well, and his life was disrupted for several years. Eventually, he ventured into a new restaurant business. Earning money had never been easy for him. Despite his relentless efforts to sustain his business, reclaiming his previous prosperity proved to be an arduous task. At one point, he wasn't even earning enough to cover his basic living expenses. As a result, he lost his appetite and suffered from insomnia due to concerns about his life. His worries began with financial matters but gradually extended to include worries about his children, wife, parents, and the future, seemingly without end. I am a witness to his life overshadowed by worry. Sometimes, worry has the potential to end a life. In 2009, the world witnessed a global economic recession that began with the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers Holdings, Inc. During that time, I came across an article about a billionaire who tragically took his own life after suffering significant financial losses during the crisis. Despite still having his life and his family, he saw no reason to continue living due to the loss of his wealth. In my perspective, the monetary loss alone should not have driven him to such a drastic decision. However, I believe that the loss of his wealth stripped away all meaning from his life, and he became overwhelmed by worries, which, in my opinion, ultimately originated from a fear of death. I believe that the fear of death consumed him and had a profound impact on his soul and family. When the wealth that had shielded him from the fear of death vanished, he was left defenseless against that fear. If he had understood that his worries were baseless and merely a paper tiger, incapable of harming him, he might have handled the situation better and led a fulfilling life, becoming a source of blessings for those around him. However, his worries overwhelmed him. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, worry is defined as mental distress or agitation resulting from concern, usually for something impending or anticipated, and an instance or occurrence of such distress or agitation. The core issue is the mental distress from something, and that something arises from an unknown source that we cannot predict in the future. That something undoubtedly arises from the fear of death. Consequently, we find ourselves constantly worrying about unraveling the fear of death. However, what I know for certain is that we will all eventually die, and we cannot resolve the fear of death through our own strength. Therefore, worrying about it seems somewhat futile. Regardless of how wealthy, healthy, or wise we may be, death awaits us all as our ultimate destination. Most of us don't deeply contemplate why we experience daily worries or how worry can permeate every aspect of our lives. One worry leads to another, and eventually, we even find ourselves worrying about what will happen after death. To some extent, this is both comical and absurd, yet it is a tendency we all share. So, where does the worry of life originate from? It undeniably arises from the fear of death. It stems from the fact that we have lost eternal life and are destined to die. Therefore, how can we overcome the worries of life? The answer lies in attaining eternal life, a state devoid of death. Only then will the worries that burden us on a daily basis dissolve, much like snow under the sun. The title of this book is The Fear of Death. Isaac G. Lee presents.